Hey, what's going on, folks? We have a wild show for you today. Moderna is suing Pfizer over their vaccine patent. Before we break this story, remember, CNBC wrote this article in 2020. You can't sue Pfizer or Moderna if you have severe COVID vaccine side effects. The government likely won't compensate you for damages either. Interesting. Remember this old article. The NIH claims joint ownership of Moderna's coronavirus vaccine, and we'll learn more about that ongoing lawsuit where the NIH, the government, wants credit for Moderna's vaccine, before we move forward to Moderna wanting credit for Pfizer's vaccine. What a fantastic mess this has become. Now here's a quick breakdown I did on Instagram and TikTok before we start the show. So Moderna is suing Pfizer BioNTech for patent infringement over COVID vaccine. This is getting interesting. Two biggest pharma companies on the COVID vaccine dueling. Moderna alleges Pfizer BioNTech, without permission, copied mRNA technology that Moderna had patented between 2010 and 2016, well before COVID-19 emerged in 2019 and exploded into global consciousness in early 2020. Isn't that just fascinating? On a side note, something I personally find interesting is Bill Gates has been giving grants to Moderna since at least 2016. In 2018, it was reported that Gates said Trump is super interested in a universal flu vaccine. Wouldn't you love to have the universal flu vaccine be something that really got kicked off and energized by you? Bill Gates told Stat that he recalled asking President Trump. And in September of 2019, obviously before the lockdown, Donald Trump passed an executive order modernizing influenza vaccines in the United States to promote national security and public health, bringing together all of these branches of government, establishing a task force, and talking about the modernization of influenza vaccines. Now, I'm not saying the COVID vaccine is the influenza vaccine for the idiot fact checkers out there who like to lie. I just find all this fascinating.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm pulling a double shift today because the news broke that Moderna is suing Pfizer over mRNA technology that they claim they patented themselves from 2010 to 2016, claiming that Pfizer has copied their earlier patent without their permission, which is also interesting because the NIH, the National Institute of Health, a U.S. government agency, is also trying to claim the vaccine of Moderna. So last year you had the NIH say, we own part of the patent of Moderna. The government says they own part of it. And now Moderna is trying to say that they own Pfizer's, or they deserve the technology from Pfizer. So we'll see what happens. It's like big pharma cartel wars, but I have a bunch of documents to go through. I'm going to hold them up to the screen so you could see, read them aloud, do a news report, and then I'm going to take off and probably take the weekend off. Appreciate y'all for being here. So it starts. This is my favorite article from 2020. I shared this multiple times on Facebook, on Twitter. Someone said, am I the only one who sees a black screen? Well, I hope not. If anybody else sees a black screen, let me know, and I'll just quit the live stream. But hopefully you could see me. Just give me a thumbs up if you could see. All right, so this is my favorite article from 2020. It's CNBC. It says, you can't sue Pfizer or Moderna if you have severe COVID vaccine side effects. The government likely won't compensate you for damages either. So the reason I like this article is because it's very honest and transparent. I'm going to read it. Yep, this is from 2020. They're saying, they told you before the vaccines even came out to the public, they said, you can't sue Pfizer or Moderna if you have severe COVID vaccine side effects. Government won't compensate you either. I told people this hundreds of times because I just wanted you to have the full scope of information. Thanks for the thumbs up, guys. I think it was just one person's screen. I got you. Under the PrEP Act, companies like Pfizer and Moderna have total immunity from liability if something unintentionally goes wrong with their vaccines. A little government-known program provides benefits to people who can prove they suffered a serious injury from a vaccine. That program rarely pays, covering just 29 claims over the last decade. So this article, I'm just going to read a little bit about it before we fast forward to what's going on today, which is Moderna suing Pfizer. They said in 2020 in CNBC, if you experience severe side effects after getting a COVID vaccine, lawyers tell CNBC there's basically no one to blame in a U.S. court of law. The federal government has granted companies like Pfizer and Moderna immunity from liability if something unintentionally goes wrong. It's very rare for a blanket immunity law to be passed, said Raj Doon, a Dallas labor and employment attorney. Pharmaceutical companies typically aren't offered much liability protection under the law. You also can't sue the Food and Drug Administration for authorizing a vaccine for emergency use, nor can you hold your employer accountable if they mandate inoculation as a condition of employment. So why is that article from 2020 so important to me? Obviously, for obvious reasons. So they're rushing this out with Operation Warp Speed, right? Tens of billions of dollars of funding. They're pumping it through faster than ever before. They're so proud of it, right? And then it comes out in 2021 and they're letting you know this is a very rare liability shield under the PrEP Act because it's not usual. And the federal government has no liability. Moderna has no liability. Pfizer has no liability. The FDA had no liability when they emergency use authorized it. And even your employer, in most cases, aren't liable for your own side effects, injuries, and deaths. So what I shared this with everybody because I told them I'm not going to tell you what to do, and I don't even know if I'm allowed to on these psychotic authoritarian platforms that are so in the bag for big pharma that they censor even accurate information that goes against them. But it's like for myself and my own health, I can see what's going on here. An emergency declared, right? Tens of billions of dollars in funding to the corrupt big pharma, which controls both parties through lobbying money. They rush it through, call it Operation Warp Speed. They brag about how great it is, but yet they're so excited about the safety of it, right? And I'm not saying it's not safe. I'm just being honest. They're so excited about the safety, yet nobody wants to claim liability for side effects, injuries, and deaths. And then as things start rolling out and people start getting vaccinated, the media starts covering up any of those instances, no matter how rare they are. So, from there to there, I think it's pretty obvious what's going on, right? Anyway, here's another one I think this is from 2020 as well. Ready? I'm going to hold it up to the screen. This is before I'm getting to today's report. The NIH claims joint ownership of Moderna's coronavirus vaccine. So, nobody's interested in money, they tell you. Oh, it's all about your health and safety, even though it's going to be a multi-billion-dollar, eventually trillion-dollar cash cow. This is going to be a trillion-dollar cash cow if they keep rolling out the mRNA shots and people keep loving them, it is what it is. But as they tell you on the TV that you're so selfish for not getting it, the NIH wanted joint ownership of Moderna's vaccine. Let's read about it. The National Institute of Health may own intellectual property that undergirds a leading coronavirus vaccine developed by Moderna. Why does that matter? Because the federal government, according to Axios, has an actual stake in this vaccine. It could try to make a vaccine free or low cost, public good with wide distribution if the product turns out to be safe and effective. This is from 2020. The big picture, the NIH mostly funds outside research, but it also often invents basic scientific technologies that are later licensed out and incorporated into drugs that are sold for massive profits. The agency rarely claims ownership stakes or pursues patent rights, but that appears to be different with the coronavirus vaccine. Isn't that just so interesting? So the government wanted and still does want part of the patent of the Moderna vaccine. Let's fast forward now. So if you're following this correctly, Moderna has no liability for side effects and injuries of their product. Neither does the FDA, neither does Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, all the vaccine companies. Neither do apparently your employer. Now let's fast forward to today's headline. Moderna sues Pfizer BioNTech for patent infringement over COVID vaccine. So now Moderna is claiming that Pfizer copied them. How could this be? Moderna alleges Pfizer and its German partner BioNTech copied technology that was developed years before the pandemic. What? They're using technology that was developed years before the pandemic? Fascinating. It was patented already. This would sound like a conspiracy theory if I would have said it 2 years ago. And I'm not going to cry about my numbers, but if I wasn't being targeted by Facebook for being so effective, we'd probably have 15,000 people, 20,000 people here if my numbers continue to grow instead of them cutting the reach of my thing. But it's fine. I don't care. I'll find other ways to reach people, like Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, unfortunately. So Moderna suing Pfizer and BioNTech. I'm going to read this article because it's very interesting. Moderna is suing Pfizer and its German partner BioNTech for patent infringement, alleging they copied Moderna's technology developed years before the pandemic. We are filing these lawsuits to protect the innovative mRNA technology platform we pioneered, invested billions of dollars in creating, and patented during the decade preceding the COVID-19 pandemic, Moderna Chief Executive Stephen Bancel said in a statement. Moderna on its own and the partnership of Pfizer and BioNTech were two of the first groups to develop a vaccine for the novel coronavirus. I'm not going to read too much, but I do want to get to this part. It says patent litigation is not uncommon in the early stages of technology. Don't fret, people. There's nothing weird here. This isn't uncommon, which is probably true. It says Moderna has also been sued for patent infringement in the United States and has an ongoing dispute with the U.S. National Institute of Health, as I already said, over rights to mRNA technology. In Friday's statement, Moderna said Pfizer and BioNTech appropriated two types of its intellectual property. So when was this technology created that Pfizer apparently, allegedly, possibly copied or stole from Moderna? The U.S. Food and Drug Administration granted emergency use authorization for the COVID-19 vaccine. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant to read the second paragraph. It says Moderna alleges Pfizer and BioNTech, without permission, copied mRNA technology that Moderna had patented between 2010 and 2016. Fascinating. I have a few more articles to go over, but we'll talk about that first real quick. So you have the NIH suing or trying to get intellectual property rights or patents from Moderna. Moderna's suing Pfizer. And the media this week is starting to say that Trump rushed the FDA through safety studies. What in the world is going on, folks? Do you think that it's just a big circus? Do you think this is what big pharma companies do? They're just greedy and selfish. I still have faith. I mean, I don't know if this country's so far gone yet, but even though the media reporting is so corrupt, people like Mike Yoder, my friend who I've had on a lot with, there's a lot of lawsuits going through. A lot of people are winning. The PrEP Act actually doesn't last forever, so there are going to be lawsuits about that eventually. I still try to be faithful and be like, listen, eventually the truth is going to come out of what they did here. And eventually, people will be compensated. And eventually, maybe these companies, although they're corrupt in their different ways, are going to fight each other and just expose each other. I mean, that's all I could really hope for because, just to wrap it up for those who always say to me, well, Anomaly, if this person didn't mandate it, then that's fine. I don't see it that way personally. That the whole world doesn't revolve around mandates for me. Mandates are evil. I think forced masking is evil. Real quick, I just want to say this. If you're an employer, right, and you have some sort of restaurant or some sort of company, and all the patrons are just galloping around without a mask on, but you're only masking your workers, you're the new slave master. You're evil. You're not scientific. You're a piece of garbage, okay? Stop force masking the working class. Stop allowing them to cover their face when a bunch of people are in the room without it. It's dehumanizing, it's demoralizing, and it's like the new slave. They're just like, I'm the slave master and you're working, so you have to cover your face like a prisoner. Oh, but there's going to be hundreds of people in here that don't have a mask on. What's the science of that? It's called the science of elitism, the science of scum, and the science of evil. So snap out of it. With that being said, people always try to counter my argument and say, well, everything's okay with the vaccine, Anomaly. The only thing that's bad is the mandate. I disagree. To me, that would be equivalent of saying, well, cartels are innocent of the fentanyl coming into America because cartels are not mandating it. These drug dealers are not mandating the fentanyl, so they're just completely, totally innocent because the only evil in the world are mandates, right? You have to mandate drugs in order for it to be bad. Of course, that's not true, and it's not true with the vaccine either. For the fact checkers and the little demon gremlins who pop out of their holes to say, oh my God, what's he about to say? You can listen, but don't take it out of context. I'm not telling people how good or bad these shots are. All I know is Rochelle Walensky, Joe Biden, Rachel Maddow are all on camera claiming at one point that they would stop the transmission and provide, real immunity for a long time. And that didn't really happen. So, I mean, you could consider that a success, but I think everybody with a brain knows that that wasn't the plan. Even, Albert Bourla was pumped about a South Africa study that 100% of efficacy. Except for the fact that didn't happen. So you guys could cover it up. You could lie. You could censor. You could fact check. You could act like these are the greatest human achievement in medical history, like Trump says. Whatever you want to do to sleep at night. But I think everybody with a brain knows that this was whatever, in my opinion, without saying too much to get banned off these platforms. Eventually, I'm taking a break this weekend, folks. I've been working too much and doing too much stuff. But I'm going to figure out a way, because I don't like to play the victim. And, I'm not going to cry, because I get hundreds of thousands of views on TikTok and Instagram every single day. So I'm still reaching the masses in a different way. But, I'm going to figure out my way to do my reports and build outside the infrastructure, I think, eventually, because these people are just annoying me. But let's go back, since now we know, now we know that Moderna is patenting something or they had it patented in 2010 or 2016, and now they're suing Pfizer because they said Pfizer, with their new vaccine, was copying their old technology, right? Their old technology. If you go back, this is the only screenshot I forgot to print out, but I'm sure you guys will believe me, and look it up if you don't. Moderna got some funding from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I'm going to pull it up on my computer to make sure I don't get the numbers wrong. But they got funding in 2016, I believe. Here it is. It's on Genetic Engineering Biotechnology News. Moderna wins initial $20 million grant from the Gates Foundation, 2016. So for years, Gates has been funding Moderna, right? What is Moderna? Moderna was always mRNA technology. I don't think Moderna had a single product on the market that was out for human consumption to the masses and approved. I don't think they had one before Moderna, this new vaccine. They were just a technology company that was experimenting on messenger RNA technology, and they are really the orchestrators of it. That's why they're suing Pfizer. So we know that they've been working on that for years, right? This is where it starts to get interesting. When did that get rolled out in America? Obviously 2020, right? That's in 2021. That's when the mRNA technology started being pumped into our heads as like this really great thing, right? Oh my God, we need it. This is the new vaccine. This is the new technology. Please listen to what I'm saying. Please don't get upset, because if you really want to understand what's going on in the timeline, you have to listen to this. So I'm just saying it's very bizarre that they're rolling out this new technology. They already had the plan for years to roll out this technology. And there's this new virus, this new strain, this new pandemic that just spontaneously hits the country. Oh my goodness, here it is, right when we're ramping up to do, universal mRNA technology. Just spontaneously, someone ate a bat or a pangolin or a lab leak, whatever they want to say, oh man, what a crazy kooky coincidence. It's not like, just happens right as they're already doing this, because as we know at 2016, they're already developing this technology. And let's go to 2018 now, okay? This is a Politico article. It says Bill Gates says Trump is super interested in a universal flu vaccine. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to hit my microphone. And you can see there, it's from 2018, right? April 2018. Wouldn't you love to have the universal flu vaccine be something that really got kicked off and energized by you? Bill Gates told Stat that he recalled asking President Trump. So in 2018, Bill Gates told the news that he was pitching this idea to Donald Trump, universal flu vaccine. And you could see he said, wouldn't you like to be that person, Donald Trump? Wouldn't you like to be the science hero? Wouldn't you like to just change the world with my new, universal flu vaccine idea? Isn't that interesting that Bill Gates was telling Trump to do that in 2018? For the fact checkers out there, because I know they're going to nitpick this and lie about me, I'm not saying the COVID vaccine is the flu vaccine. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is mRNA technology has been patented since the 2010s. 2016, Bill Gates is funding Moderna. He's interested in mRNA technology. In 2018, he comes to Trump and says, hey, Trump, let's work on this new, what universal flu vaccine was he talking about? What technology? I don't know. Maybe Moderna, maybe mRNA technology. Maybe that's what he was interested in. I don't know for sure, but I mean, it seems pretty logical, right? If he's thinking about new technology and ramping it up and, getting Trump interested in it, obviously. I mean, people can put the pieces together themselves. All right, here's where it gets crazier. We're not even getting to the lockdown in 2020 yet. If you've been following me, you know this, but look at the wording of what Bill Gates said in 2018 to Trump, and look what Trump passed in 2019. It's called an executive order on influenza vaccine modernization. This is Contagion Live, an infectious disease reporting site. It says a national influenza vaccine task force has been established, which will develop a 5-year plan to promote new vaccine manufacturing technology and to accelerate the development of a universal flu vaccine. Isn't that just fascinating? So in 2018, Bill Gates goes to Donald Trump and says, hey, don't you want to be the guy who rolls out the new universal flu vaccine? And in 2019, before the pandemic, Donald Trump, I guess, says, yeah, it's not like he just thought of this idea himself. Do you think Donald Trump just walks around and thinks, I'm going to create? No, I'm sure Bill Gates came to him with the idea and other people. So Donald Trump used an executive order and he rolled this out. Here's the interesting part. If you read it, I'm not going to read the whole thing aloud, but one thing that really stuck out to me was the fact that, let me just scroll down and find it, it brought together a bunch of branches of government that I just find, don't need to, in my opinion, I wouldn't think this would need to be necessary to just roll out a new vaccine, right? Here's directly from the executive order from 2019. Ready? In addition to the co-chairs, which includes the pharmacy lobbyist/executive Alex Azar, the head of Human Health Services, the task force shall consist of a senior official from the following executive branches of government, agencies, and offices: the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, the Department of Veteran Affairs, the Department of Homeland Security, the U.S. FDA, the CDC, the NIH, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. Isn't that interesting? This is in 2019. So they said in the executive order, they're like, we need to modernize this technology. We need to get more people to get the flu vaccine. This is in legislation. They're complaining about the flu numbers being low. And then in this executive order, and keep in mind, guys, executive orders come from the president's pen. This doesn't go through House or Congress. This wasn't Mitch McConnell. This was Donald Trump. He signed off on this. And just to do a new universal flu vaccine or a new flu vaccine modernization technology, he brought together, listen to the government agencies, guys, for a vaccine. The Department of Defense for a vaccine. The Department of Justice for a vaccine. The Department of Agriculture for a vaccine, the Department of Veteran Affairs for a vaccine, the Department of Homeland Security for a vaccine, of course, the FDA, the CDC, the NIH, but he brought together a senior official from the entire government to roll out this new universal vaccine plan. And just real quick, before we move on to the next step, in 2018, Bill Gates says Trump is super interested in a universal flu vaccine, and he pitched the idea of it to Trump. In 2019, Trump signs an executive order for modernizing influenza vaccination. And in 2018, Bill Gates also said Donald Trump offered him a job in the White House. So obviously you could tell based on my reporting, Donald Trump most likely listened to Bill Gates and said, sure, I'll do the universal flu vaccine thing. And apparently he even offered him a job in the White House. Somebody should ask him. I'm not going to name names, but you know people that are friends with Trump that get interviews with him all the time. Ask him, since 99% of Trump supporters don't like Bill Gates and 99% of Trump supporters think that, Bill Gates is infringing on the Trump agenda, why doesn't somebody ask Donald Trump if he gave Bill Gates a job in the White House? Does anybody want to ask him? Of course they don't want to ask him. You know why? Because they're not going to like the answer. So, I can't play the clip because it's extremely banned, but Alex Jones recently, who I don't care what you think about Alex Jones, he voted for Trump twice. He was the biggest Trump supporter in 2016 and 2015. He helped Trump win the election. He had billions of views. Say what you want about Alex, but he has a huge audience and he was one of the original Trump supporters. Alex Jones came out recently and said, I'm giving Trump a date in September. If Trump doesn't come out and start speaking against this corruption, then I'm going to say he's in on it. So even Alex Jones is starting to turn on Donald Trump for the first time. And Alex Jones says on his platform that he thinks that Trump will eventually turn against the corruption and speak about it like Bolsonaro. Because if you've ever heard Bolsonaro from Brazil speak, he is very suspect of Pfizer. And he says, why don't you have liability for the side effects? Bolsonaro talks about it. Someone said, why did I flip? Linda, I'm doing reporting, okay? I'm not going to get upset today. If you can't handle my reporting, do you know anybody that has the receipts like this? I'm showing you dates. I'm showing you articles. I'm showing you proof. If you don't want to hear it, Linda, if your cognitive dissonance, if it bothers you or your emotion, it's time to cook dinner, okay? Don't come into my great live stream with my great reporting and just be emotional and a crybaby about it, okay? Fast forwarding back to where I was before Linda interrupted, rude Linda, who just can't handle the truth. I don't think Trump is going to pull a Bolsonaro and talk. I disagree completely with Alex Jones, and he says, oh, Trump's going to come around and talk about it. The reason Bolsonaro is allowed to talk about the side effects and injuries, etc., is because Bolsonaro's not completely in on it. He didn't funnel a bunch of money to Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson. He didn't buy doses. Maybe he probably did for his country, but, he wasn't Mr. Operation Warp Speed Man, father of the vaccines. He wasn't giving Bill Gates positions in the White House or trying to. He wasn't modernizing influenza vaccines with mRNA technology before the pandemic. He wasn't doing all of this stuff. So Trump can't decouple himself from this project because unlike Bolsonaro, who pretty much has no role in it, Trump is the quarterback of this project. Trump brought it all together. Bill Gates can do a lot of things, but he's not the president. He can't sign an executive order and bring the whole government together. But you know who can do that? Donald Trump. And he did do that. So to people like Linda that don't want to hear it, it's okay. You won't hurt my feelings. But long story short, I'm not going to repeat myself. It's all here. It's all documented. This is why people watch my channel. I'm not trying to brag, but nobody else is doing this type of reporting on the right wing. Nobody wants to face the facts. Nobody wants to put the pieces together. Nobody wants to make the puzzle. Everybody just wants to live in a fantasy world and, just let their cognitive dissonance and sports team bias get in the way. And, it is what it is, but that's what I'm here for. I'm not here to be a clone. I'm not here to be another parrot. I'm not here to just be another generic person. I'm here to show you what is true. I'm here to show you what happened, and my little piecing together of what I just did is probably more comprehensive than anything anybody who's going to cry and get upset at what I'm saying is going to say. So if you can handle it, listen to this video, share it if you like, and before we leave, I'm just going to, for my own entertainment, play a clip of the Biden administration press secretary calling a bunch of Trump supporters and MAGA people fascists, and her reasoning for doing so is very dumb and very fake, and I'm going to laugh at her and debunk her and defend the good people of this country who simply don't like Joe Biden because it's not fascism. She's a liar. Let's watch.
I got it. I'm in there now. So two questions.
Sure.
On the semi-fascism comment.
Yeah.
Is this something we're going to hear more of, that phrase? Is it something the president's going to kind of embrace? Or is there any sense that it was, a little impromptu and it's going to turn into a kind of basket of deplorables thing that he regrets and tries to be quiet about?
Look, I was very clear when laying out and defining what MAGA Republicans have done, and you look at the definition of fascism and you think about what they're doing in attacking our democracy, what they're doing in taking away our freedoms, wanting to take away our rights, our voting rights. I mean, that is what that is. It is very clear, and that's why he made that.
All right, so let's talk about, obviously, she's highly emotional, right? She says, it is fascist because they're attacking our democracy, attacking our freedoms, and then she says attacking our voting rights, right? Let's just debunk all of those things. Let's start with voting rights because it's easy. The number one thing that Republicans are trying to do is get an identification to vote. You need a vaccine ID to do a lot of stuff in this country now, or you used to when they were in charge and allowed to get away with it. You need an ID to get on a cruise. You need an ID to get on a plane. You need an ID to smoke a cigarette. You need an ID or to buy one. You need an ID to do literally everything. You can't even log into certain websites without an ID. But in a lot of Democrat states, you don't even need an ID to vote. And that's the main thing that Republicans want. They find it a little flimsy to not have an ID to vote and in-person voting, right? So she says, you're taking away my voting rights and you're a fascist because you want an ID to vote. But her party, forced masking, locking down longer than the Republican Party, keeping people inside their homes for longer, closing businesses for longer. That's not authoritarianism or fascism, as she calls it, not locking people in their house. She's totally fine with that when the Democrats do it. Not forced masks on children, which is psychotic, that's okay. Forced masking on the working class, she doesn't care. Closing businesses down while Walmart and Target stays open. She was probably fine with that for a few months or years in Democrats. So this is the mind of a skewed, scrambled Democrat brain. It's fascist to demand that people have an identification and vote in person, but it's not authoritarian or fascist in any way to lock you inside your house and treat you like a third world prisoner if you don't inject yourself with synthetic mRNA that apparently nobody knows who created it, because Pfizer or Moderna is suing Pfizer, NIH is suing Moderna. Everybody wants a piece of this $1 trillion cash cow, and I hope they sue each other into oblivion. And then she talks about freedom and democracy. It's like, just saying you're attacking democracy is very generic. You know what I think is attacking democracy? I mean, there's a lot of things, and sometimes people on the right wing fail, but I think it's attacking democracy to have a story that it must be Russian disinformation to be a Trump supporter, or it must be Russian disinformation to get a story on Hunter Biden, and then you have the FBI going to Facebook and telling them to be on the lookout, and Facebook cuts the reach of it, and Twitter bans it, and they basically take the biggest story in the world and eliminate it like an authoritarian psychopath because it goes against their political candidate. I think that that's an attack on democracy, but I know you don't care. And then, freedom. This idea that Democrats support freedom. Freedom, but wear masks. Freedom, but you have to get a vaccine to come here. Freedom, but you can't come into this country unless you get injected. Still to this day, I don't know if it's changed, but Novak Djokovic can't come into this country, and hundreds upon millions upon tens of millions of immigrants can't come into this country, or rather, any travelers, even if you're not an immigrant, unless you have an injection. That's freedom? Is you need to get injected to come to America? That's freedom? That the greatest tennis player in the world can play in London, but not in America. So London's more free than America now if you don't go against Big Pharma's tyranny? It's so obvious, but here's what I want to say before I end my live stream, and there's a lot of stuff that I could do better too. I make mistakes as well. Democrats are very good at tricking people. They're very good at doing the student loan thing. And then I saw this clip of Ted Cruz and Michael Knowles, and it's this sound clip that makes Republicans look terrible, because isn't that just what these people do? They just like put out clips and make everybody look bad. You don't have to be for giving people student debt loans. I'm not, or forgiveness. I'm not saying you have to be for it, but Democrats are so good at tricking people, and Republicans are sometimes so good at not being cool and just looking like pathetic, and then everybody hates them, and then they go vote for Democrats. So we need to do better at debunking them, because when they try to say that freedom and democracy are under attack by the right, and you guys are against voting rights, it's like you want to make people believe that identification for voting is bad, but you need a vaccine card to enter the country. Like, it's so obvious who the party of freedom is at this point, and I don't even think Republicans are good. I honestly think from the bottom of my heart that Republicans are liberal socialists. I don't even think they're capitalists. I don't think they're conservative. They're liberal socialists, in my opinion, masquerading around with cowboy hats on, and that's why we never get anything done. But with that being said, doing a better job to get people to vote for you and like you is something that they're not doing. And, I hope that people figure it out. If I ran for office or if I were running, try to let people know that you are going to keep things open. And the Democrats were the party of the lockdowns. The Democrats are the party of forced masking. Most people that are not even voting or don't care that much, they don't like to be forced masked. They don't like this stuff. Just before I leave, I'm not saying you have to fully trust him, but look at Ron DeSantis. I'm not saying everything he does is perfect. I don't think so. Call him out if you want. If he's lying, tell the truth about it. But what I'm saying politically, as a marketing tactic, he has been, on paper, maybe one of the most radical right-wing governors. That's why the media is so mad at him. He's passing all these things to block the rainbow mafia. He's blocking, protecting children. He's trying to take masks off of people as much as he can. He's done more than most governors have with his pen. A lot of people talk with their big fat mouths because they want donor money. Oh, lock them up. Everybody just donates money and they just run in circles. DeSantis doesn't talk that much, but he actually did a lot. Say what you want about him. He actually probably did more right-wing things than any other governor in the last year or two. But he's still the massive favorite to win the Republican Party. He's showing you how it's done. I'm not saying you have to do everything he does. I'm not saying you can't call him out. But what I am saying is he's showing you the blueprint. Stop just yapping and being annoying. Actually do something and just tell the truth about it, and most people will like it. Florida's a swing state, yet he's a massive favorite to win the next election because he's doing environmentalism and he's showing a lot of left-wingers there. I'll do this. And he's not looking to be, super popular. He's not bending over backwards to the left. This is what the Republicans do. They become liberal socialists, but they talk like they're patriots. They annoy the crap out of everybody. They lose the election because nobody likes them. And then even when they win the election, they still lose because they don't know what they're doing, and they end up in a lockdown doing vaccine sales. You look at DeSantis, he didn't have to cave on a million things. I mean, he did do some suspect stuff, call it out. But I'm just saying, if you look at how he governed, you could say he governed further right than any other, Republican, yet he's really popular in a swing state. You don't have to cave on all your values to win an election. You just have to do it, be likable, and be able to defend yourself in public. And eventually, if you're authentic, enough people will hear what you're saying. Say what you want about me, but I get tens of thousands of left-wingers to listen to what I'm talking about. I got a bunch of celebrities, high-profile people that follow me on Instagram and like all my videos, and I see their videos. They're not Republican. They don't like the right wing. They don't like Republicans, but they'll listen to me. And I would say on paper, I'm not compromising a single thing. It's like I have way harder stances than the Republican Party and a lot of Trump supporters on certain issues, but I just don't like go on Michael Knowles' thing like Ted Cruz and just be a dick, and then everybody hates you and you're not even doing that much. It's like, you don't have to compromise to win elections and be likable. You just have to, stick to the truth, stick to authenticity, mean what you say what you mean, and that's the path forward. God bless you guys. God bless your family. If you just joined, please feel free to share or watch this video back. Moderna is suing Pfizer. The NIH is suing Moderna. They all want this technology that was apparently patented in 2010 to 2016. And although they want you to think that it's just the greatest thing ever created ever, and they're totally just the nicest, most philanthropist people, they're all suing each other because they all want a piece of that multi-trillion-dollar piece of the pie, which, by the way, has been developed since 2010, 2016. And if you watch my video, you could see essentially how the rollout came within the Trump administration and how Bill Gates probably got to Donald Trump and got him to push this technology and push it through executive order. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. Before I end real quick, here's ways to listen. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I'm on BitChute. I'm on Rumble. I'm on Gab, but I barely post there, but I should post more. I'm on Spotify. I'm on Apple. It's called Dream Rare Podcast. And if you see at the bottom right there, it says dreamrarelinks.com. You search Dream Rare Links, you find my shop. You want a hat, you get a hat. You want my email list, you can find it all at dreamrarelinks.com. Patreon.com/raretalk. There's 4 secret podcasts. I bring on a friend and just have a more casual podcast on there. We talk about topics I don't talk about here. So patreon.com/raretalk. Thank you to people supporting on there. You keep this live stream alive, and I will, keep working hard and try to figure out how to reach more people. And then on Facebook, thank you to Facebook supporters. And we did a 2 signed hat giveaway. So I'm giving 2 signed hats and mailing them to 2 people who support on Facebook for like $4.99 or something a month. I don't even know how much it is, but thank you to people on there. I do my best to give back, work hard, and that is what keeps the show going. That, your shares, your watches, etc. Appreciate you. God bless you, and I will be back very soon.